We just want a quiet party this year. My mother's text lit up my screen. Amanda, no drama. Just us, Mark, and his kids at the cabin. No drama, translation no me. I stared at her words, the subtle exclusion cutting deeper than if she'd said it outright. I was the problem they were trying to avoid. Amanda Mitchell, 34 years old. The black sheep. All because I chose to be a social worker instead of joining the family law firm like my golden boy brother, Mark. Every holiday gathering turned into another reminder of how I'd let the family down. Another ping. The cabin needs tranquility this year. You understand, right? The cabin. Our beloved mountain retreat. The same place I'd spent every holiday since childhood. The same place my grandfather had left to all of us, not just my parents, no matter how conveniently they forgot that. Perfect, I typed. Enjoy your peaceful holiday. Her reply was instant. Glad you understand, dear. Maybe next year. What she didn't know, I'd already made other plans. For the past year, I'd been working with a local foster care center. Most of the children I worked with had never had a real holiday celebration, never decorated cookies, never opened gifts under a tree. That was about to change. I called Maria, my coworker. Remember that party we dreamed of pulling off for the kids? The cabin? She asked, cautiously hopeful. Are you sure? I'm more than sure, I said. My name's on the deed too. Let's do it. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. I coordinated with local businesses for food, gifts, decorations. Volunteers signed up in droves when they heard the idea, a holiday retreat for 25 foster children, all held at a private mountain cabin. The very cabin my parents had tried to keep drama-free. I arrived a day early to decorate. Every room sparkled with festive cheer. A towering tree stood in the main room. Stockings were hung, gift boxes stacked, laughter already in the air. Then another text came. My mother again. We'll be arriving tomorrow at 2. The housekeeper's prepping everything. I smiled. Mrs. Sullivan, the housekeeper, was in on the plan. Just confirming, I texted back. You're still coming at 2? Yes, though I don't know why you care since you won't be there. That night, the buses arrived. Children spilled out, eyes wide with wonder. Is this really all for us? A little girl named Sophie asked, clinging to her backpack. Yes, sweetheart. This is your holiday home. That evening, the cabin overflowed with joy. Cookie stations, craft corners, story time by the fireplace. Laughter echoed in every room. It was the kind of holiday I'd always wanted to give, just never to the people who rejected me. As I tucked the kids into bed, helping them hang their stockings, I realized something. Being pushed away from one family had made room to build a much bigger one. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, my parents would arrive expecting peace and order. What they'd find was something far more powerful. At exactly 1:58 p.m. on Christmas Eve, their SUV rolled up the snowy drive. Mark's car followed close behind. I watched from the window as they took in the sight. Buses, volunteer cars, snowmen on the porch. Their faces twisted with confusion. Before they could open the door, Sophie, 6 years old, in a Santa hat, beat them to it. Merry Christmas, she beamed. Are you more of our special guests? My mother froze. My father scowled. Mark looked lost. His teens, usually glued to their phones, actually paid attention. Amanda, my mother snapped. What is the meaning of this? I stepped forward, surrounded by children's laughter. Welcome to the foster kids' holiday retreat. Since I wasn't invited, I figured I'd put the cabin to good use. You had no right, my father began. I had every right, I said calmly. Grandpa left the cabin to all of us. Remember? Before they could answer, Mrs. Sullivan appeared, holding a tray of cocoa. Oh, good, you made it. The children are about to start their carol performance. They stood frozen as kids brushed past in handmade sweaters, giggling and running into the great room. My niece tugged on her mom's sleeve. Can we go watch? Inside, 25 foster children gathered before the fire, voices rising in a shaky but heartfelt song. My parents' peaceful holiday had become something they couldn't control. But in that moment, they finally saw something better. Sometimes the best kind of revenge is joy. And in a house once reserved for silence and exclusion, laughter reigned instead. Maria, acting as the conductor, lifted her hands. The room filled with slightly off-key but earnest voices singing holiday carols. I watched my mother closely as Sophie, who had been rehearsing for days, stepped forward for her solo, Silent Night. Her small voice, soft and pure, carried through the cabin, echoing into the silence left by years of judgment and distance. For a moment, even my mother's carefully guarded expression cracked. These children, I said quietly to my stunned family, have never had a real holiday. Some have never even had a proper Christmas meal. I let that sink in before continuing. So, when you told me you needed peace more than you needed your daughter at Christmas, I decided to give them the kind of holiday I used to have here as a child. My father's stern face faltered as he watched a little boy gently hang an ornament on the tree, his eyes shining. That was Tommy. He'd spent the last 3 Christmases in different foster homes. The local community stepped up, I explained. Once they heard about the kids, donations poured in. Every child has presents under the tree. Volunteer chefs are preparing dinner. And tomorrow morning, they'll wake up to their very first real Christmas. Mark, my younger brother, the golden child, who had been unusually quiet until now, finally spoke. This is what you do, isn't it? For work? Helping kids like them? This is what I do, I nodded. This is the disappointing career choice you've all loved to criticize. I help children find hope, even if it's just for one night. My mother blinked quickly and pulled a tissue from her designer purse. But where will we sleep? Surely the rooms are. There's plenty of space, I assured her. The kids are doing camp-style sleepovers. Most of them have never had one before. Your rooms are untouched if you'd like to stay. You could even witness what a real Christmas miracle looks like. My niece and nephew had already joined the foster kids, mimicking hand motions for Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. Their unfiltered laughter, something I hadn't heard in years, rang through the cabin like a second kind of music. Mrs. Sullivan reappeared, now with a clipboard. Amanda, the kids want to know if they can start the cookie decorating contest. And Tommy's asking when the storytelling session begins. I turned to my family, still standing stiffly in their designer coats and carefully managed distance. Well, I asked, would you like to join us? Fair warning, it won't be peaceful. But I promise, it'll be meaningful. Silence followed. It stretched for a long moment. Then Sophie, still in her oversized sweater and Santa hat, walked over and gently took my mother's hand. Would you help me decorate cookies? I've never done it before. And Amanda said you're really good at it. My mother looked down into Sophie's hopeful eyes. Her face softened. Wordlessly, she slipped off her coat, handed it to my father, and let Sophie lead her to the cookie station. What happened next was nothing short of a transformation. The same mother who once fretted about crumbs on her tablecloth spent hours helping children slather cookies in icing and sprinkles, flour dusting her sleeves. My father, who hadn't told a bedtime story since I was little, found himself surrounded by rapt kids as he rediscovered that old magic. Mark's teens even put their phones down willingly to make paper snowflakes and build snowmen with the younger kids. Mark watched it all, eyes following his children as they laughed freely for the first time in ages. Then he turned to me and gently said, "I'm sorry, Amanda. We've been wrong about your choices," Mark said, his voice quiet but steady. "Seeing what you do, how you help these kids, it's incredible." As evening settled in, the cabin was filled with the mouth-watering aroma of Christmas dinner. Local restaurants had donated a full feast, and volunteers served warm plates to children who were used to going without. My mother, still wearing the apron she'd used during cookie decorating, stood beside me, quietly observing the joy around her. "They're so polite," she whispered, watching as children asked for seconds, their eyes bright with gratitude. "So thankful for everything. Our own children take so much for granted." After dinner, the kids gathered around the glowing tree. Each child had their own stocking and a few carefully wrapped gifts, some for the first time in their lives. Tommy, the quiet boy who'd caught my father's attention earlier, opened a box containing a thick, insulated winter coat. "It's just like yours," he beamed at my father, eyes shining. My father, who had worn his expensive coat all evening, silently slipped it off and hung it up. "Would you like to learn how to build a fire?" he asked. "My father taught me when I was about your age." As midnight neared, the younger kids were tucked into bed while the older ones watched holiday movies in the den. My mother found me in the kitchen, preparing pancake batter for the morning. "Amanda," she began, her voice thick with emotion, "I don't know what to say. We've been so wrong. We were so focused on our version of success, we couldn't see the importance of what you do." "It's not about being wrong, Mom," I said gently. "It's about understanding. Peace doesn't come from avoiding people or labeling them dramatic. Sometimes, peace is about creating joy where there was none." Christmas morning dawned crisp and bright. The cabin buzzed with excitement as the children tore into their stockings, discovering surprises tucked just for them. My parents, who hadn't spent Christmas morning in pajamas for decades, sat cross-legged on the floor, helping kids unwrap gifts and build toys. Late morning, a local news crew arrived. Someone had tipped them off about the foster kids' holiday retreat. My mother, still in her silk pajamas and yesterday's flour-dusted apron, gave a heartfelt interview about community, generosity, and what it means to give. My father, standing with Tommy at his side, made a quiet but bold announcement. He would be starting a foundation to support the education of foster children. I watched my family not perform for attention but genuinely connect. No filters, no staging. Just laughter, compassion, and open hearts. Sometimes the best answer to being excluded is inclusion. Mark came up beside me, his eyes on our mother, who is now learning a clapping game from Sophie. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking. The firm could take on more pro bono work for foster families. Maybe you could help us set that up." I nodded, a quiet yes forming on my lips. By the time the buses were loaded and ready to go, there wasn't a dry eye in the cabin. My mother hugged every child goodbye, collecting handmade cards and promises to visit again. My father had already exchanged numbers with Tommy's foster parents and was talking mentorship possibilities. "Next Christmas," my mother said, watching the buses disappear down the snowy road, "we're doing this again. But next time we'll plan it together. All of us." I smiled, remembering her message from weeks earlier. We just want a peaceful holiday. Because now we all knew the truth. Peace doesn't come from silence or small guest lists. It's not found in avoiding conflict or keeping things tidy. Sometimes, peace is found in the joyful chaos of children's laughter, in sticky fingers covered in frosting, in the warmth of strangers becoming family. And sometimes, the best response to being shut out is building something so beautiful that no one wants to be left out again.